Well, good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Michael Kotzenmoyer. I'm your host today. I'm going to pretty quickly hand it off to our presenter, Kenneth Kwan. He's VP Sales and Marketing at Rivington. Before I do that, I just want to go over a couple of logistics and kind of set the table for today's session. As always, everybody's in listen-only mode. That's just to respect your audio experience. We do encourage questions, so if you have any, you're welcome to drop those in the chat section at any time. We usually save questions to the end just in case the answer is found along the way. And if your question goes unanswered after today, certainly we will follow up with you. Sometimes time doesn't permit us to get to all the questions, so have no fear. We'll be glad to follow up with you after today's session. So today's session, as I'm sure aware, is dedicated to a special product that is afforded to you. If you're joining us, it's because you've been given special access to a product written on American Modern paper that is brought to us by Rivington Partners, and that is why Kenny is joining us today. So without further ado, I'm going to let him tell you all about the product, the process, and we'll kick it off. Kenny, you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Michael.
All right, let me hand over controls and we'll get her done.
All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen now. Let me switch it over to the other one. All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. Does it look okay?
Yeah, it's
all right, is it on the split
yeah.
one?
Yeah, we see monitor 1, so if you want to switch over to that monitor 2. It's a nice picture though.
Glad I switched it.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, there you go.
All right, beautiful. All right, thank you very much everyone for joining us this morning. I appreciate it. We've had some really good success with JE Brown agents that are already accessing the program, so we're thrilled to be introducing it to others now. What we'll do is go over a few things. This is kind of the items that we'll be covering today. A little bit about Rivington Partners, talk about the appetite for the program, ineligible risk, coverages, underwriting process, inspection process. Cool information about our wildfire specialist. That's the part there. And we'll have some time, like Michael said, at the end of the question. About Rivington Partners. The Rivington Partners is a managing general agency, so we manage this program on behalf of American Modern. So American Modern has a normal program for a non-wildfire program. We manage everything for them on this wildfire program. So the question usually is, what's the relationship between Rivington Partners and American Modern? Totally separate entities. American Modern was looking to introduce a wildfire program instead of taking on the expense and the time it took to hire underwriters, inspection teams, program systems and such to specialize in a wildfire program. They were introduced to us by another party that knew both of us and said, you may want to talk to Rivington Partners because they have a lot of that infrastructure already in place. So our underwriters are specifically trained to look at risk from a wildfire perspective. We have an inspection team that specializes in looking at risk from a wildfire perspective. So the last bullet point there coins it best, I think. This was stolen from an agent that we deal with. Said you guys are old school underwriting using new technology. So we look at each risk and we underwrite each risk on its own merit. We don't rely upon a computer system like most carriers do to determine whether or not a risk is acceptable. So this program is for risks that have been declined by American Modern due to wildfire scoring. So the way it is, because American Modern is providing a non-wildfire program and a wildfire program in California, there's a best pricing rule, meaning basically you have to be able to determine why Mr. Smith is being offered a quote in the wildfire program with a higher premium than in the non-wildfire program with the lower. So kind of the line in the sand or the ticket into the ball game means that we have to have a declination by American Modern due to wildfire scoring solely. And that's when our team can actually look at those risks. So if we have a situation where a risk gets submitted to us by accident that scored less than a 71 or was acceptable from America Modern because of brush boring, we would have to flatly decline those risks because it does not meet the qualifications to even be considered in the program. Coverage A maximum that we can go up to is $2.5 million. So if a risk is $2 million or more, we do require central fire and burg. 1.5 million or more, we require the central fire alarm. And for secondary homes, we require central fire and burg at 1.25. This is an admitted program, so without question, the homes we're looking for homes that have components that are in good repair, show pride of ownership. We're looking for a minimum of 30 feet defensible space. We can consider modular homes as long as they're in a masonry foundation and pitched roof. We cannot do manufactured homes or mobile homes. The building codes on those are totally different, but we can consider modular homes. Once again, it's an admitted program, so the electrical, heating, and plumbing should all be in good repair and meet local building codes. So the system that we utilize for the replacement cost is E2 Values. This is a system that is used by a lot of high net worth carriers. So it takes into consideration things like features and finishes, debris removal. Location is a huge factor in determining replacement costs. So if the home is more remote, it's going to mean that getting the materials there, the workers there, is going to be more costly. If it's located on the slope, once again, getting the materials, if you're thinking about carrying some large lumber up a huge hillside, that's going to be a lot more costly and take a lot more time than a normal situation where you're delivering lumber to a flat area. Another thing too is attached structures. We need to make sure that we're capturing a lot of those. A lot of the cost estimators don't capture all that information. It's going to be pulled off of county records, but a lot of times they're missing things like elevated patios, attached decking. And a lot of these attached decking can be thousands of square feet too. So we want to make sure that we capture those because if they're attached to the main structure, it should be considered in coverage A. No cost estimator takes into consideration for demand surge. But if you think about demand surge when in a wildfire situation, you're talking about homes and neighborhoods that are decimated by this situation. So when you have whole neighborhoods that are gone, you have a situation where you're going to have shortage of material, shortage of labor, shortage of contractors. We had a situation where we had an insured that had a 700 square foot home that was located in a campfire, and she was being charged in excess of $700 a square foot to rebuild that home. So, one thing to take in mind when you're talking to these insurers about replacement costs, demand surge is nothing that anyone can anticipate. But, we want to make sure that if the home is destroyed, that they have ample coverage to replace that home. Appetite. So we can consider PC 9s and 10s. We do require an unprotected questionnaire to be filled out in order for finding on those risks, make sure that it's acceptable. So the big question that you usually get from agents is, when will a risk not be acceptable? So if the fire department is 7 miles or more away, then those risks will be defined. Electrical system, once again, should be in good working order, meet all local building codes. We can consider knob and tube if it's less than 10% of the home square footage. Usually those areas are going to be small areas that aren't utilized for a lot of electronics. So, we've had situations where it was like an area that was used to store items on there. So you're not having a lot of electronics that are plugged in that area or used very often. But once again, those should be effective in the last 2 years. We can consider wood burning stoves. They have to be a supplemental heating source, so a secondary heating source. We do require them to be professionally installed and professionally maintained on a yearly basis. Homes built on landfill or sand, we do require an automatic gas shutoff valve to be installed. As they do not currently have one, but they are willing to install one, our underwriting team will work with you in regards to giving some time to get that installed. Risk with employees. So the big question there is, what we're trying to capture is any kind of commercial exposures that we need to be worried about. So your normal situations, your housekeepers, your landscapers, your gardeners, we're looking for the scope of employment, what's their job duties, how many hours they are working, so we want to know whether or not we need to put on that workers' comp fee as well. Where you have situations is, like I said, if you have commercial exposures on there that we need to be worried about. Sometimes you have people that are hired as caregivers. That could also be a danger as well, because if you consider the caregiver is responsible for administering medication, or doing any kind of lifting of the insured. That could be an issue. It's very easy to give the wrong dosage of medication. It's very easy in a situation when you're trying to lift someone out of a bathtub because they are wet of a slip and fall hazard. So we need to be worried about those kind of situations. Trust and LLCs. The big thing that you want to remember there is trust and LLCs, as long as they're for personal asset management only, those are usually okay. There's a questionnaire that will need to be filled out. We're trying to, once again, capture any kind of commercial entities that we should not be covering. So when you have unrelated parties that are on a trust or LLC, if Michael and myself created our own trust, that would kind of indicate that there's some kind of commercial exposure on there that we should not be covering. Risk with prior losses. Once again, it's an admitted program, so we're not looking to build this book of business on risk with prior losses. That being said, we will consider risk with losses. The questions from the underwriters are going to want to be is what exactly happened and what measures did the insured take to hopefully prevent further loss, similar losses from occurring. Risk with horses, as long as they're for the riding and enjoyment of the family, those are usually fine. Where it's not going to be okay is when you have situations where they're getting riding lessons or stabling anyone else's horses. Technically, in the underwriting guidelines, there is a limit of 4 farm animals. However, if you had a situation where the insured may have, let's just say, 8 goats that are used to manage the vegetation on the property, that would be something that the underwriter would probably give consideration for. So just let the underwriters know what the usage of those animals is. Standalone secondaries. So we can consider standalone secondaries for this program. Some of the questions the underwriter is going to want to know is how often is the home occupied? When they are not there, do they have someone that monitors the home, be it a property manager or a relative that lives in the property? We do require an automatic water shutoff valve to be installed in standalone secondaries. That's going to be the question that you're going to want to ask once again, is if they don't currently have one in there, but they're willing to install one, our underwriting team will work with you in regards to giving you some time to get the documentation number. Just once again, make sure that the insured is willing to install one and agrees to install one. Winterization plan may be needed. So in situations where areas freeze, your Tahoes or Truckies of the world, we're going to want to know when the insured's not there during those winter months, what actions do they take to hopefully prevent the water pipe from freezing? So do they keep it at a certain temperature? Do they turn off the water? Do they have someone looking on the property, etc.? Annual brush removal plans in certain areas will be required too. We want to make sure that they maintain the clearance or the vegetation management that they have. Mentioned it earlier, but central fire and burglar alarms are required at $1.25 million. Because of co-insurance situations, we want to make sure that we have a copy of the primary homeowner's declaration page to be uploaded to our system, and no vacation exposures. Ineligible risks. These are pretty self-explanatory, but dwellings not owner-occupied, course construction and dwellings, mentioned it already, but we can't take mobile or manufactured homes. Big surprise, no wood roofs. I don't think anyone likes wood roofs, especially for a wildfire program. Post and pier foundations are unacceptable. The cement caissons, so if you're familiar with cement caissons, huge cement caissons that are embedded into the bedrock of homes. This practice was usually done after 1994. Pretty expensive process, so your insureds will probably be aware of if they have those kind of cement caissons. Exotic animals, aggressive animals, any kind of bite history would not be acceptable. Dwellings owned by businesses, and if the home is located on 20 acres or more. Coverages. So it's an HO3 program. Extended replacement costs can be selected up to an extra 100%. Personal injuries available. So if you have someone that needs personal injury, please indicate on the Accord app that you want that coverage to be added. Water backup is $75K, ordinance loss up to 6%, and loss abuse 6%. Underwriting process. So once again, to reiterate, the risk has to be declined by American Modern due to CoreLogic score of 71 or above. So if you go through their system and it says decline due to wildfire scoring, that's kind of what it means. Agency portal, that's the online agency portal. We're working on getting that released to the agents. So more forthcoming on that. Once we do have that, you'll get some information from us. Very easy process to do, very user friendly, a lot of radio buttons, drop down menus, and information is pulled from county records, so you need to verify there. Until that happens, we're taking court apps, or if you have agency questionnaires, you can submit those to HOSubmission@rivpartners.com. We input that information on there. If the risk is acceptable, the underwriter will email you a quote proposal back with any kind of underwriting subjectivities that you're required to find. One thing I didn't mention, and I'll point it out here, we don't write auto insurance, and we don't want to write auto insurance because of loss ratio issues, of course. But we do offer a multi-policy credit, which is pretty cool because it's, as long as the insured has 100, 300 limit or 300 CSL with an admitted auto carrier, we need a deck page for that. But if we get that information, we offer a multi-policy credit. It's a rating factor on it, so it could range from 10 to 25%. So it's pretty significant credit for them. And the risk and the auto does not have to be with you. However, because we do require the deck page, we've gotten a lot of agents that have been able to cross-sell the auto because we do require that deck page, so they're able to provide an auto quote to those insured. If you wish to bind the risk, we just need a sign application. Any kind of documentation on underwriting subjectivity. So if we're required a wood burning stove questionnaire, we need that, and all that stuff. And then what kind of billing methods they're going to provide. The next slide will talk about the billing methods that we offer. So you send all that information to HOBindRequest@rivpartners.com. There are the billing options on there. And we have full pay, 2-pay, 4-pay, monthly. The only one that we can bind without money is the mortgagee bill. So the mortgagee bill will receive an invoice from us. Just kind of a note too, is the invoice will say pay Rivington Partners. That's true. They should pay us directly so we can pay American Water and all that stuff. We manage everything on this program except for the billing. Please also note for the initial down payment, that will include the fees. I think the next slide is fees. There's a $250 wildfire inspection fee, non-recurring, non-reimbursable, $75 policy fee, and if they choose installments, there's a $3.25 fee. Once again, the claims are all handled by American Modern, so there is the 1-800 number for American Modern. Same process that you do with their normal program, policy number, contact information, description. They will take the ball and run from there. So I kind of already mentioned is that we do a lot of upfront underwriting. So the team will look at aerial. They will look at past burn histories for those areas to see whether or not we can write it. Agents, if they provide photos, maybe they know that the aerials are very poor in the area. Then they can provide photos or past inspections to show what the true exposure is on there. So it helps out the underwriter make a better determination whether or not they can offer a quote on it. But another huge factor of why we're able to write this kind of wildfire business when nobody wants to write wildfire business is because of our inspection process. Rivington employs our own team of inspectors. So these are Rivington employees that are meeting with the insured. So if you see here, the employees that we employ that go out and do the inspections all come from a firefighting background, Cal Fire, Department of Forestry, hotshot crews, fire chiefs. So these are all people that work for us that kind of has that experience and that education and that passion about fire. And that passion really goes out when they're meeting these insured. So they're meeting with them and talking to them from a different perspective than from an insurance perspective. They're out there to see if there are ways to make their home safer in regards to a wildfire situation. So we've gotten extremely good feedback on this as well. So, one thing that we found out too is once agents have actually gone out on inspections with our team, they're able to better understand it. They're able to better sell the whole process to them. So what we will do too is we're actually implementing this now, is our dispatcher that sets up the inspection. They'll set up the inspection with the insured. We always will contact the insured to get permission to be on their property, set up an appointment with them. Once that appointment is set, the dispatcher will reach out to the agent. They'll send them an email kind of giving them the information on when the inspection is going to happen and what time it is, and ask if they want to attend that as well. So if you want to attend it, you can let Angela know. She'll let our inspection team know, and that way they are aware that you're going to go out there to be there with your insured to see the whole inspection. But once again, it's kind of, they're looking at it from a different perspective. They're also going to go out there and verify the replacement cost. They're going to do it interior as well as exterior. The exterior portion is the wildfire consultation portion. The interior portion, once again, we want to make sure that we are adequately covered on it. We are to capture any kind of attritional loss issues that we need to be worried about from the interior of the home. You know, if there's situations with the washing machine hoses, things like that, do they see any kind of staining from water? We also want to capture that information as well. But like I said, the more important thing that I think of when they go out there to do it is they're looking from the outside of the home to see what kind of dangers or what kind of steps the insured can take to make their home safer from a wildfire perspective. So this is a pre-inspection checklist that we provide to the insured as well. So kind of the big question usually is, okay, the team's going out there to inspect the home. You know, a lot of these insureds have been non-renewed by other carriers in the past, so they're a little worried about, like, hey, is there things that we can do before the inspector gets out there so we have, can be, proactive in this process. So, this is something that we provide to them so that they know kind of what to expect. What is our team looking for? This is a requirement that we have in all homes. The Emperor resistant venting. So the mesh that's behind the attic fence and the other fence of the home, they need to be 1/8 inch mesh. Some homes already have the 1/8 inch mesh. Some homes have a 1/4 inch mesh. We do require the smaller diameter mesh as a requirement. It's a very, very easy process for them to do. They pop off the initial vents that they have, replace it with the mesh. They can purchase at Home Depot or Lowe's. Really inexpensive. They can buy a roll for a nominal amount. But it's been this kind of came up as we were looking at the losses that we had on the campfire to see if there were ways that could have prevented some of the homes that we had lost that would have made them safer or possibly had them survive those fires. There's been a lot of studies that a 1/8 inch mesh has a significant impact on keeping embers out of these vents. So we did make that requirement. So we do provide the insured a copy of a bio for the inspector that's going to go out there. Everyone except for this gentleman here, Craig, who is our director of the inspection team. Craig and I previously worked together at Chubb, and he's most recently from AIG. He manages the whole team. So what we needed to do is find out from the next slide here shows the wildfire inspectors. They'll have bios just like Craig had on that earlier slide, but for time's sake, I just wanted to kind of put them all on one slide. But these are the people that are meeting with them. They'll have their bios on there. So the way that they like to do it is they introduce themselves to the insured. They tell them a little quickly a bit about their background, so the insured kind of feels more at ease that they're not insurance people, but they are actually people that are fought fires. And they're once again, their number one goal is to see if there are ways to make that home safe from a wildfire. That was the last slide. The one thing I'll leave you right now is we're helping a number of agents right now with non-renewal listings from other carriers that are getting off of risk because of the wildfire exposures on things. Depending on what the list entail, we may be able to assist. Some listings we're getting from agents. We had one the other week that was a list of 50 accounts that were being non-renewed. Problem with it is basically it was just names and addresses. So what we were able to do, though, the team was able to look at that listing based on the addresses and determine out of those 50 risks, there were about 13 because that we could tell that would not be a fit for the program. So we were able to at least eliminate those from them. The agent was thankful because they know that they don't have to compile lists and applications and send those ones our way, that they can just avoid that. So, depending on the situation, we are happy to do that. But, just let me know. My contact information is there. Feel free to drop me an email or give me a buzz, and we can help with that, facilitate that. Or if any other questions come up, back to you, John. Michael, with that, I'm done. If you wanted to open it up to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kenny. A lot of information. I'm sure that we'll have at least a few questions here. So I wanted to ask just on that last note you were mentioning, the non-renewal list. So obviously the more information, the better in terms of what they provide you. But is there a bare minimum? I mean, I know you just cited an example with just addresses, but is that really sufficient, or are there a few other key things that would be helpful in terms of pre-qualifying?
coverage A, and I've seen a lot of non-renewal listings. Some include like coverage A, the protection classes. Those are always helpful. The bare minimum, names and addresses, you would need that. And like I said, from there, that's kind of more or less us looking at that listing and saying, okay, we can't do these risks. So it kind of at least eliminates those submissions to us. So, when agents are dealing with a large list of non-renewals and knowing that they have to go to market on it, knowing that they at least say, hey, those 13 not to go to Rivington kind of does shave a couple of minutes off of their team's day. So.
Got it. So it's more like eliminating that which they would possibly submit to you. Okay.
Correct. But, if the more
right.
information we have, we may be able to provide quotes on them. The one thing I caution people about is the quotes are good for 30 days. American Modern, Rivington, as well as every carrier is concerned about aggregation and saturation in areas. So, I'll tell you an example. We had a listing from an agent that was given to us, and we reminded them, hey, we can look at these. We usually look at them in 2 month increments, but he wanted us to take a look at the whole year. And we said, okay, but remember that we like the risk right now. Past 30 days, we may be not so fond of that risk because we wrote a lot of business in that area. So, so what he ended up doing was the ones that we were able to accept, he basically told his insurance, hey, right now, if you want to move this one, it's acceptable now, but in 30 days, it may not be acceptable.
I see. So it sounds like an education process all around.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, before we get to a couple of questions here, folks, I want to kind of hammer home a point that should be painfully obvious to everyone. The market is in an interesting place right now, and I hear from a lot of our customers that people are struggling with non-renewals from their primary carriers, and just finding it difficult to place coverage for new risks, and a lot of people going to California Fair Plan. So we hope that before you take that plunge to the Fair Plan, that you'll definitely look at the options afforded by American Modern and Rivington Partners, because they should be a good outlet for a lot of these owner-occupied risks. All right, so Kenny, we do have a couple of questions that cropped up here. First one is kind of a two-part question. Does your team inspect interior and exterior of the home? And do you contact the insured to set up these inspections?
Oh, great. Good question. Thank you. So yes, we want to do an inspection interior as well as exterior. Once again, the kind of the meat and potatoes of it is doing the exterior portion of the wildfire consultation, where they're able to look at the home from a fire perspective on what are the dangers. These embers are flying miles away, so what measures can the insured take? But we also want to do the interior of the home, just like other high net worth carriers do. Make sure that we want to make sure that coverage A is adequate. Should knock on wood, the home burn down. And B, we want to capture any kind of issues that we've seen a lot of things with, like washing machine hoses that have been worn and tethered. So we want to make sure that the insured is aware of that. Water heaters that are showing kind of rust and deterioration. We want to make sure that we are pointing that out. Think about it, water heaters, where they're located. Not many people actually look at those on a very regular basis. So we're able to capture that information and point out to the insured that they may want to get that inspected. Yes, and we also do set up appointments with everyone. We want to make sure that we actually have a dispatcher that will contact each insured. So one thing I like to ask agents to do is when they write policies with us, make sure that the insured is aware that someone from Rivington is going to be reaching out to set up an inspection for them. Because, with a lot of scams going on in the world right now, people are like, hey, is this legitimate? Is this person really calling to set up that appointment? Yes, Rivington person, Angela, will be reaching out to these insureds to set up those inspection appointments. You will never, ever just appear on an insured property without them knowing. Good question.
Good to know. All right, so the next question is, I'm glad this person asked, because it's something that's come up a few times and did seem a little bit confusing at first. It relates to American Modern's coverage A limit of $1 million on the homeowners. And so the question is, if the home is declined by American Modern due to coverage A over $1 million, why can't your program consider it, given that you go up to 2.5, correct?
Yes, correct. And that's definitely a question that comes up quite often. So it kind of goes back to the Department of Insurance in California. There's a best pricing rule. when a company like American Modern is offering two homeowners programs, there has to be kind of a line in the sand that says why Michael's getting a quote in the wildfire program, which is going to be more expensive than the normal non-wildfire program. So the risk has to be declined because of wildfire scoring. So it can't be any other reasons that American Modern has declined the risk. So if it's because of the coverage A, believe me, we would love to look at some of those $2 million risks that scored a 16 on CoreLogic as opposed to 71. But because of that filing and that law, we cannot offer on those. We would love to. Rivington's actually working on another program that would coincide with American Modern. It's probably going to be launching in 2020. That would be able to kind of coincide with American Modern because we are turning away a lot of good risks like that we wish we could offer that solution for. But unfortunately, right now, we aren't able to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. The rules is the rules. So,
yes.
One other question came up here, and I think you mentioned it, but it does bear repeating because early on, I don't think you were able to consider the standalone secondary or seasonal home. We were talking about primary residences only. And now that you can consider those seasonal or secondary homes, there's oftentimes the exposure to short-term rental. And this person's asking if, you're okay with the Airbnb or the VRBO style rentals.
Unfortunately, for this program, we are not looking to do any kind of vacation Airbnbs or any kind of exposures like that. These are straight what we call secondary homes. So the insured that is using a home in Tahoe just for themselves, they're not renting it out or anything like that. Exposure with the rental market is quite different than just a straight secondary home. So we are going to be doing a standalone secondary. We want to make sure that there is no kind of vacation exposure on it at all.
Got it. All right. Well, everybody, for the sake of time, we're going to call it a day. And if your question went unanswered, certainly we will circle back with you. If you need to reach our office, you can at 800-955-8213, or of course, visit us on the web at jebrown.net. I want to thank Kenneth Kwan for his time today and providing all the particulars on this program. I encourage you all to give it a look with your next tough to place homeowners risk. And I want to thank you all for joining us. Kenny, thanks a lot.
No problem, Michael. Appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.